just quick reminder, again, Friday, 9:30 is the groundbreaking at Fricker Center. Look forward to seeing you guys there. With the news last night or yesterday evening, certainly very, very pleased at the federal level with the housing bill, with attainable housing obviously being our largest priority. That passed Congress yesterday. I know it's just waiting on the president's signature. We don't talk lots about federal policy legislation up here, but given the fact of, one, the bipartisan support, certainly being part of leadership of U.S. Conference of Mayors, this was a big conversation about trying to get this across the finish line, and some glimmer of encouragement in an otherwise divisive country that we can all agree that affordability is a major, major issue and housing is a major issue, and that we can put our disagreements aside as a country and come up with some real solutions. I'll give you a couple anecdotes of how this will potentially positively impact us locally. And Betsy and our housing team, of course, they're analyzing this, lots to go through, and we'll be able to give you guys some more details as things develop on specific impacts and changes. But here's what we know this early so far, and how it could be positive for Pensacola. First, there's versatility being added to the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funding, to let local governments use that to directly build more affordable housing. That was not necessarily the flexibility that was provided previously. They could be used to fund infrastructure or things that supported home construction, but they couldn't those dollars didn't actually construct the home itself. So that required really more than even cost, time and red tape, and so we could use these HUD dollars to site prep, but then we had to go figure out someone else to build it, which really only added cost and really added time. So that flexibility will certainly allow us to get more units on faster. The corporate buyer restrictions, I'm a big supporter of. For the first time ever, the bill sets legal limits preventing large institutional investors, and that, I think the definition is owning 350 or more single-family homes from stockpiling additional single-family homes. It doesn't force divestment of current properties, and permits corporate entities to build brand new single-family homes specifically for rent. So, point being, we've heard about that around the country, of these large corporations buying up single-family homes, that putting pressure on rent rates and prices of homes. So, encouraged to see that. And then regulatory streamlining. I would say this is probably what crossed our desk with federal dollars more than anything, is that it cuts some of the federal red tape by accelerating environmental reviews for infill. You would be surprised, or maybe not surprised, about how long these environmental reviews take for federal dollars specifically. So for infill, small scale, and low impact housing rehab projects, they're going to cut a lot of that red tape. Doesn't mean we aren't going to do environmental checks, but the immense level, when you think about, and we can give you some real numbers around this in the coming weeks, but the amount of time that we would be in environmental review if we were even building one house or on one property with federal dollars is really out of whack. So more to come on the additional effects of legislation, but certainly encouraged by that. There will be we believe, real positive impacts in terms of our housing needs here in the city with that. Obviously, very excited for the Triumph Board approved term sheet for the grant agreement with Birdon on Monday, and grateful for our economic development, our legal, our port teams for their part in getting the second of these three important steps across the finish line. The next major milestone is the approval of the grant agreement, which we hope to bring later this summer. We're looking at August, I believe, that August meeting. After that would be lease terms between the city and Birdon, both of which would require city council approval, and the confirmation that the EDA and the Job Growth Grant Fund awards will happen. So right now, Birdon is completing their noise study that we had requested on their intended facility design, to give the assurance to me personally, and certainly our council and the public, that the manufacturing activities won't be a noise burden comparatively. So they should be right at the end of that, testing what the noise levels are now. We're also continuing efforts to identify parking and commuting options to support the influx of personnel. We do get that question a lot. when they start ramping up towards the 2,000 total jobs. Not all 2,000 will be on port, to be clear, but obviously a huge win for our city and our region. And the bottom line you'll hear from me, I think I mentioned this to you guys last week, the new priority one, once this is across the finish line, the new priority one for the city's economic development efforts will be building the workforce. We've got plenty ahead of us. We've got 1,500 to 1,700 jobs at ST. We've got 2,000 jobs, knock on wood, that we get this across the line. For Birdon, that is very real, high quality job opportunity for our residents. And we cannot sit idly by and hope that those get filled and hope that our kids are getting those skills built. We're going to be very intentional. So when I have a date certain, we'll get it to you. But again, we are going to have a summit of federal, state, and local leaders within workforce here in Pensacola. That will include, not limited to, but that will include, of course, Pensacola State, University of West Florida, leadership at Career Source Florida, the Federal Department of Labor, Secretary Kelly will be invited, that runs all of Florida Commerce, the school district, ST and Birdon. This is not just a Birdon thing. This is going to be an ST thing. We want high quality jobs going to our kids. So we're gonna use our ability to convene here at the city, and we're going to get everybody in the same room and make sure that, one, we're identifying the same problems, and that we come out of there with some clear tracks and solutions. So I don't know that we'll leave that meeting with the exact agenda, the exact list. But again, we don't want to hope that all these agencies and all of these universities and schools, everything else are singing from the same sheet of music. We want to ensure that they are. So you'll see that coming from us this fall, and we'll certainly let you guys know when that meeting takes place. We did receive, I know you guys have reported, another letter from the Florida Department of Government Efficiency. As always, we're happy to fulfill that request. They've asked for public records. We will provide public records as we would to anybody. I know that they are going back and re-requesting from some of the agencies they went to at first. I want to give a big thanks to our finance department and all of the departments, HR and everybody else that has to drop what they're doing. And it's a lot of documents to put together that are due this Friday. Amy Miller is on top of that right now administratively to make sure that everything is completed as requested. And our bottom line is our finances are an open book, literally, figuratively, in any way you want to do it. So if any agency or any citizen has questions about public documents and how dollars were spent, again, as a reminder, we just had an audit from an outside agency, not from an internal one, that was completed maybe not even a month ago, that was clean. So again, we stand behind our work and that we're good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. How those things are calculated when they leave here, I can't control, but I can certainly stand behind the effort of our city employees that we are good stewards of the taxpayer dollar. So happy to provide anything requested. E-bikes, just an update on speed limits. You guys may have seen that the governor's going to sign into law July 1, or assuming he signs it, will take effect. The new law sets a 10-mile-per-hour speed limit on a sidewalk or pedestrian area if a walker's within 50 feet. It requires bikers to yield to pedestrians on shared trails or park paths and sets fines for breaking the rules at a non-moving traffic ticket and a $30 fine. Reminder that motorized vehicles of any type, that's e-bikes, motorized skateboards, motorcycles, golf carts, ATVs, unless for ATVs or cars and trucks, unless for maintenance as provided written permission or special event, are prohibited in city parks. Some of our parks have noted some issues with motorized bikes cutting trails in the landscape, especially Bayview Park. We've received, we've seen some of those photos of going down the hills and all that. We are aware of that and acting accordingly. Typically with state regulations, local governments need to adopt companion ordinances for them to be enforceable. Fortunately, as I had pointed out to you guys recently, the city's attorney's office has got a draft pretty much finalized to bring forward for council approval. And the final internal review to button all of that up is expected in the next week or so, and the goal would to get it in front of council in the September meeting. So we were already working on some of the regulations here because of the concerns that we had now we will fold in, of course, all of the new state laws, state regulations, and have something on the books, or certainly for the city council to consider this fall. The platform for business tax licenses is changing July 1st. Just a heads up that we're moving to a new database for that. And it's MGO, My Government Online. We use it for many other departments. We'll automate some of that paperwork. So any questions that any small business owner has about the city business license, obviously they can reach out to us or go to cityofpensacola.com, but there's just new software coming in there. There is a PPD training at Workman Middle School on June 30th. So if you see police presence in and around Workman Middle School on June 30, that is what's going on. It's a mandatory training. And this time it will include a personnel and equipment from the University of Miami with scenario training inside and outside of the building. Mike Wood is your contact on that. So again, June 30, if you guys getting phone calls in the newsrooms of what's going on at Workman, that is what's going on at Workman. Certainly we'd appreciate you conveying that back out to everybody. That is everything that I've got, and happy to take any questions you have.
Mayor.
Yeah.
So with Birdon coming in, would the city need to add, I know we're still early in the process, but do you get the sense that the city would need to install any sort of infrastructure or anything to meet their needs? Have they asked or told you what those needs would be?
Yeah, well, starting on port, again, it's a $104 million, 400,000 foot structure that, and fortunately, the $11 million of road and rail repair that was funded through Hurricane Sally money is actually helping that existing and future tenants to make sure that they're able to get their product, get their materials in and out by truck, by train, or by water. All of the beat up infrastructure that is right there to the south of the security checkpoint and all the way really to the southwest corner. So all of that, we're fortunate that we've got that $11 million going in, because those would have been, when you talk infrastructure of actually moving product around the port, that would have been a necessary expense for a project like this to come in, and so I'm glad that that's happening. Obviously, we're having conversations around traffic in and out. Fortunately for us, this will not be that the day they sign they'll have 2,000 jobs. That there's obviously clearly a step up in how that will take place, when shifts are. So we're in constant conversation with them about really two things. One is traffic flow, and then two is the parking aspect of it. I've maintained that I think the best parking solution long term for us is to use the surface lots to the west of the port, to the south of the Holiday Inn, if you will, kind of Comandencia Street in Cedar. All of those surface lots going south to the ferry landing are all city-owned, port-owned. So a parking garage has been surmised in that location regardless of this project, whether that was because of the growth of vibrancy of downtown or any. So it was already kind of an opportune location to put one. I think that's further motivated and further sped up by one, having enough parking revenue to reinvest in the city, and two is to be able to, obviously the parking lot as is right now at the port is not going to be able to fit that. Now, could we figure out parking solutions for employees on port? Maybe not in totality, but we could. But that's not what we want the solution to be long term, because that's finite property behind a fence line that has those certain protections and trade zone protections and things like that. So we want to maximize every square foot of that small port footprint. And not be using it for surface parking lots, right? So we know that there's a possibility of having a parking garage and then a catwalk, if you will, that would go over the train tracks and come out at the north terminus of the port. So that is what we're looking into, and only that much more aggressively, but given the Birdon possibility. So a little bit chicken and egg right now. We got to get this thing across the line, or there's no use messing with that. But just absolutely to the citizen that uses downtown, the parking aspect of this and the traffic aspect of this is on our radar. I will remind folks, in case they see the update about the Sun Trail, that the Sun Trail surmises continuing to have 4 lanes along Bayfront when you go east. There's been much conversation over many years about whether you would go from 4 lane to 2 lane on Bayfront, east of the port going towards the 3 Mile Bridge, that we've been intentional about being able to put that path in, but instead taking that frontage from the medians versus taking away a lane. So already we've been under the idea that eventually, as the port gets more populated, you don't want to choke off car capacity and things like that. So anyway, we should be good on the east side in terms of car traffic, but yes, that is very much a secondary but recurring part of our conversation as Birdon comes to fruition.
And any ideas of, I mean, this is obviously this is going to be great economically for the city. Is there a number that you have on what this company would bring into the city once those 2,000 jobs would get here? And what would this do to the housing market too here locally?
Yeah, so well, two things. The one direct number is 2,000 at full steam, 2,000 jobs, $80,000 a year on average is $160 million of annual payroll coming into the city. And when we talk about the number one issue in this country, what's different in 4 years in this job? The number one issue in this country 4 years ago was housing. That hasn't necessarily changed, but I would say it's evolved to affordability, period. So housing being one aspect, very vital and one of the largest. But now we're talking about ensuring that dinner is getting on the table, that ensuring that a power bill can be paid, those types of things. That affordability as a whole has become, I really believe, the forefront of the minds of everyone in this country and certainly in this city. The city has limited ability to lower a power bill, to make wind insurance cheaper. There's lots of things. I don't see the role, because we don't have the mechanisms to do it, that the city can help lower costs of groceries, things like that are happening at the federal level. But that's why we've pivoted to what we can control, which is if we can get somebody an $80,000 a year job here, their dynamics change in terms of being able to pay those bills. So I think an attack on affordability, on making things more affordable for people, is to create high quality job opportunities. So when you think just at the direct level, $160 million of payroll coming from somewhere else, that $160 million doesn't come from a competitor here that now gets moved, or it's not moving money around the same location. This is the best type of economic development you can have, which is $160 million every year coming in from somewhere else and being injected into this community. So I think that will be monumental for affordability. And then second, we can't put a dollar figure on it or a job count on it, but every time a project of this scale goes to any community, whether it be Mobile, whether it be Pascagoula in the shipbuilding space, or here, is there will be ancillary job opportunity that will take place because of the size and scope of their project. That means there's going to be smaller subcontractors that are going to want to move. It's why we focused on the inland port. We need more space that has that same kind of port designation that doesn't need to be on the water, but that can feed some of these as well. So we'll see. I think we're just scratching the surface of what the total job opportunity can be. And I've used this example with you guys many times. There's 500 jobs at the GE plant off Scenic Highway, but that plant feeds 2,150 jobs around this community. And so I expect the same type of exponential impact. To your second question about housing, obviously it's not like, we have a city, we have a county, we have neighboring counties. As you can imagine, many people work here and live other places. So of course, I think an influx of having 2,000 people, which could be 4,000, 5,000, if you include family members and things like that moving, that we need to be intentional about that. But I think that's probably as much a regional discussion, really. And we see many people that work in this city that live in Pace, live in Milton, Gulf Breeze, Navarre, place like that. We see that with the military bases. Some people living in Alabama or in the western and northern parts of the county. So I don't think that's solely. I think we're going to continue our shotgun aggressive approach on just increasing housing inventory, period. Right over our shoulder right now, there's 600 market rate units that'll be in place well before Birdon is here. So I think we will continue on that trajectory, and hopefully any way that we can aid, and any way that our surrounding cities, counties can aid in creating more inventory, certainly we want to be participants in that. So more to come on that, but I don't think anything on the housing side changes our approach. We're already being as aggressive as we possibly can to create inventory.
Mayor, you said earlier, you said not all 2,000 jobs will be on the board. Can you clarify?
Yeah, so when you look at the job breakdown, I think it's 1,400 and change, 1,437, something like that, of the jobs will average 68,000. Those are going to be probably more of your jobs that are on port. That'll be the actual manufacturing, welding, those types of activities. And then I think the 500 plus jobs that average 112,000 are going to be more of, that might be accounting, engineering, things like that, where they may not necessarily be in the hangar, in the facility, working on the boat itself, but would be in some office space, whether that, so it could be across the street. Obviously, that remains to be seen. I would suspect that it will be as in close proximity to the facility as possible. But that's not something we control, nor if they find suitable office space in the city or in the county or whatever, then obviously that's something that they will determine. They'll go find that private property. So we are not involved in building any type of office facility for them, or that's not really any part of the grant. All of that is focused on the main facility on port. But
It'll be in Northwest Florida.
correct. Yes. The 2,000 jobs. Yeah, the 537, whatever that. You have to get the exact number from the paperwork, but the 500 plus job, more office. Front office, back office type jobs will be located in this area. I can't tell you exactly what building that would be specifically, but we bring that up to say it isn't 2,000 jobs going in and out of the port security on shift. It will be more like 1,500.
In terms of the letter sent from DOGE, was there anything on there that felt unusual or that concerned you, or it felt pretty standard?
Trying to remember what I'm supposed to say and versus what I want to say. It's public record. They can ask for anything they want, anytime they want. I know that there's some deadline for DOGE on July 1st. If they want to ask on July 2nd, a constituent can ask for that. So all I can say is I can't control how documents are analyzed, whether it's DOGE, whether it's a citizen. A citizen can request a public document and interpret it any way that they would like, but we provide the documents. We're happy to, and so I feel zero concern over it, other than our team's working on the annual budget, and we're going to spend this week doing this instead. So the timing's not great from that perspective, but request it, fire away. They can request anything that they'd like and how they want to analyze it. You'll have to get that formula from them. We're not sure, but I will maintain, we stand behind decisions that we make. We make them transparently. We are stewards of taxpayer dollars. I've said since I've started this job, I ran a business myself. And if citizens are going to put me in this job, they should expect that we're going to make decisions and be smart stewards of taxpayer dollars. So I've got no concern. It's another day that ends in Y for us. They can send a letter. We'll send the documents and see what happens from there.
Okay, following up back on Birdon, what is left as far as working out an agreement between the city and Triumph and Birdon? Is it the lease details that are specific? I guess what's the timeline of all that?
Yeah. So for the most part, again, term sheet outlines a lot of those things. I guess I'll answer as specifically as I can. Obviously, there's some still a couple things to work out, but we wouldn't be at this point if we felt like there were massive deltas between terms and things like that. We're still having a conversation about. Actually, kind of to your question, 2,000 jobs, and then what percentage of those are on port versus off? Not because we even necessarily have a preference, but just making sure that we all understand. And so I would consider all of the things to work through minor at this point. And again, if it wasn't, we probably wouldn't have brought the second round to Triumph, but it's not ready for my signature. I mean, we still have to work through some of these things. So, again, it'll go. Any approval will go to council once we have a lease to approve. That will go to council, At this point, if all grants come through as expected, there will be no city tax dollars in this project. Again, that's an if, because there's still variables. We're waiting on federal grant money and state grant money. We got to see what that looks like. And in about $153 million investment from 152 from Birdon. So we feel really good about where we're at right now. I was trading calls with Birdon yesterday on a couple of just small details, but so I can't give you an exact date. You ask when, I couldn't tell you it's August 15th. But again, our intent right now is to bring it to Triumph at the August meeting, because of course Triumph needs to see this lease and make sure that they're good with it. And then it's got to go to council. So there's just some moving. I think any delay, so to speak, would be more in the moving parts of it than it is that we have significant differences of opinion about overall terms. That's how I would generalize it at this point.
Are you going to go to Triumph before City Council?
We'll do whatever is I think so, because if you go to council and get an approval and then Triumph doesn't like the lease, then we'd have to go back to council. So not because we have a preference, I just think typically we try to go to council last, not for any underhanded reason, but just for the idea that we want to bring them something that it has cleared the path everywhere else that it's required to. So, but as always, with any council members, any questions or they feel they need any narration, through any of that as we progress, we're always happy to have those conversations with them.
Fair on DOGE's first visit, I know they listed a few things that they brought up, but did we ever get an audit report the first time they were here? I know they were upset about the Sanger Theater and Zach Smith dressing up as a woman, and then there was a word about women or whatever, and then there was the sign and a hand strategic plan. But was there any full audit report given on?
Me answering this question isn't confirming your facts, to be clear, but no.
I don't know if
No.
they did or not, but go ahead.
No. Whatever report we received, whatever report came back, and whatever findings came back the same time you did. So, and that is the extent of the analysis that we received.
All right, on the tech park and the Bay Center in 60 days
Yeah.
ago, y'all met with the County Commission. I went to the PDC meeting. They are moving ahead with looking at the possibility of building a spec building there on the tech park property, parking garage on the property.
Yep.
Where is the master plan?
Yep.
For that district.
So the last conversation we had in person with county leadership was one is some type of owner's rep, CEI, that would be a county procurement, but would ultimately kind of help guide both governments through the next steps, making sure that we're taking the right steps. We had pledged that we would bring on WT, the agency, to look a little deeper into the two things specifically. One was the harmony of this second facility. Remember, a lot of the conversation was like, we all kind of agree on a second facility, what percentage of it should be ballroom and chandelier and carpet and not, those things. So one was go look at that a little closer. And then the second part we asked them was get a little more detail into those potential funding streams, government funding, loans, things like that can help sweeten the pot for the project. So that's on our side of the ledger. That's what we were tasked with. Another thing that we pledged to do that we've taken steps on, this has not been finalized, is we've had very productive conversations with the owners of the Grand Hotel. The intent would not be to bind them to anything, nor bind the city or county, other than to be able to go to the market eventually and say, hey, we're willing to play ball and be part of this overall discussion. I think anything more obligatory to that would be a little too soon at this point. So I know that they're going to go out for an owner's rep. I know there was some discussion about eventually leading to the RFI. That's what we had discussed. I do need to get some additional feedback from the county. I know there was some conversation about the management of the facility. I got to get some clarification on that. If that were the case, I'd have a little concern, just because the long-term manager of the facility, is going to want to have say in what those construction. So are they talking about an extension of a year or two because it's going to take time, or are they talking about, you know, a major management company extension? Now, that's their decision. They are the absolute legal operators of the thing, but I need to learn a little more about what their goals are there. I just don't want us to find ourselves not being able to make concurrent decisions with design, management, and all those things. But to be fair to the county, I don't have enough information at this moment to say I'm for or against that. I just saw that come up that the management contract's going to be discussed, and I hope that we are kind of still on the same page on that.
So the city's okay with the PDC looking at developing the tech park? That's not part of the.
Sure.
Because at one time it was brought up as
Yep.
being a piece to the puzzle.
Sure.
Center.
Well, my personal opinion is the highest and best use of a piece of the tech park would be some type of parking infrastructure. So if we were to go down that road, if we down the road of spec'ing a building parking, all I would request at the city is let's be smart about what this parking's expensive enough.
Right.
If you're going to, I'm making these numbers up. If you're going to build 250 spaces for a spec building, why wouldn't we build 600 spaces?
That's how they're looking at it.
Yes.
They're looking
So
at
so.
it going forward.
Yeah, as I've always maintained, it's kind of like when I've talked about the port many times over the years. Sometimes the tech park gets divisive enough to be where you're either for the tech park or you got to take the whole thing away. I think the highest and best use would be parking infrastructure that both supports the tech park uses if that gets going. Now, if it never gets going, then it does make sense to look at it. But listen, if that's moving faster and we've got some job creation opportunity there, then all I'd ask is, hey, keep us folded in there while we figure out the parking thing to make sure we're making a smart decision.
Faster's relative.
True. Yeah, this is government you're talking about, so I get it.
Mayor, you mentioned one of the city's goals at the port is to maximize the real estate.
Yes.
Is there a future for pickleball in maximizing the real estate, given now you're looking at the need for additional real estate in inland port, other like front office type areas?
Yeah, I mean, look,
Where's pickleball?
yeah, at this point, obviously they have a lease at this point.
Is the lease?
I think it's 15, or it was 15, and then it's got renewals. But you know, there's also some obligations of renovation, some things like that need to be hit as benchmarks too. So you know, so I would say there's no movement on Warehouse 4 at this point. If that group would like to have a conversation about different ways that you know, if there was some modification to what their plans were, but I mean, at this point, it wouldn't be fair to speculate on an active lease as of this moment, an active lease on a warehouse and say whether we would want, you know, that back or not. As of right now, they have a lease with the City of Pensacola on Warehouse 4 in the outside area.
Which includes parking licenses over there, right?
It's not all it includes. There needs to be the existence of 200 non-exclusive spaces. So in other words, we couldn't take all of those surface lots, build a building on it, and there be no parking. But they have no exclusivity other than the parking has to merely exist. It can be paid, it can be unpaid. You just can't take it all away. It was ultimately the spirit of that note in the lease. So I don't foresee that changing. Why we agreed to that is because I don't foresee that changing anytime soon. So whether that's a parking structure, whether that's remain surface lot, we'll be able to meet that term of the lease, no problem.
And then Mayor, on the workforce,
Yeah.
you mentioned the summit that you want to have. Are there like any initial, I guess, concerns with the workforce that you want to have addressed? Like, what would that?
Yeah.
be?
No, to me, it's volume. I mean, you now have, we have an amazing opportunity, even federally. One, this being the first reshoring of shipbuilding jobs for this presidential administration in the United States. This is a major priority for this administration, and we believe this will be the first reshoring of shipbuilding jobs in the United States. So we know that that we feel that importance because we feel the support federally and through grant dollars and things like that. I think the speed and enthusiasm in the military, in Department of War, all of that about this project coming to fruition, I certainly think walks that walk, right, that this is important. But with that is you've got shipbuilding efforts happening in Pascagoula, you got shipbuilding efforts happening in Mobile, you got shipbuilding efforts happening in Panama City, you got them here, and I think whatever the designation for a federal maritime prosperity zone is going to be, I don't know that the language has been put on it yet, but I have a feeling we're going to qualify whatever that language is as one of the preeminent places to build vessels in the United States, maybe in the world in terms of volume. So I just think we have to be very realistic about it. It's not about, to answer your question directly, it's about volume. What we don't want to do is celebrate 2,000 jobs and not have Pensacolians filling them. And I think if we were to be honest with ourselves as a community, we probably could have been a little more proactive in 2012, 2013, 2014, leading to that. Getting the ST engineering jobs is great. Those are high-paying, quality jobs, and they're doing everything that they can. They've been more and more proactive that I could speak to these last few years, and it's why we got very proactive with Pensacola State about putting the airline mechanic, the MRO school, on the airport right next to Hangar 3. Because we want to build that engine. Georgetown does a great job. Our school district's trying to be as helpful as they can. But I think we don't have a quality issue. I think we've got a lot of people that are clamoring for $80,000 a year jobs. The demand for the job, the career, isn't what I worry about. To me, it's just a big number. And I mean, we're thinking big about it, to be honest with you. I've had conversations at Tallahassee at the state level with CareerSource and with Secretary Kelly about, is there a scenario where you could have students at every state college in the state of Florida that could spend 1 year on location and then 1 year here? I mean, that's the type of volume that I think we're going to need to tap into regionally. And so that's why are we having the meeting? Because I don't want to hope those things happen. And that we want to give it our best effort, that we've got time now on our side. We've got a few years to help build these mechanisms. And remember, Department of Labor federally, CareerSource, Florida Commerce, that they have funding for things like this. So we can't go to them at the 11th hour and say, we got an idea, but we need these jobs filled tomorrow. Let's use the time that we have right now as Birdon would ramp up. And, we wouldn't be at 2,000 until 2028, 2029. There's that exact schedule in there. Don't hold me to that exact date. But it will not be 2,000 jobs the day we sign this lease. It will be building up. So let's learn a lesson from last time, that we can have a great economic development opportunity, a great job creator. And I think we can enhance that even more by making sure that we've got the funnel and we've got the fuel to be able to fill all those jobs with my most selfish preference, which is Pensacolians. Yes, sir.
Mayor, in the early days of ST, the city had, through your airport enterprise, I believe, had a consultant on the payroll guiding the entire aviation maintenance ecosystem for the city.
Yep.
Did you consider such a structure for maritime construction within the city?
We haven't given that serious. We've talked about it. We haven't given it. We haven't stepped to a job description or something like that. But that certainly would not be an unreasonable. And whether that would be somebody or an assignment within the Economic Development Office or the port itself, remains to be seen. But certainly with this, when you start talking about this size of project and this type of volume, somebody, as you know, and you can see throughout City Hall, we like the idea of somebody waking up every day being involved and accountable to large-scale projects, whether that be childcare, whether that be Palafox, whether that be, and we've got great people that are helping us do that. So that philosophy certainly is in my wheelhouse of saying when something I believe is large enough to merit taxpayer dollars being spent on someone hyper-focused on that one thing. I don't know that we've crossed that threshold yet, but we would absolutely entertain it as this gets more and more to
Ideally,
fruition.
Somebody from the industry. I mean, there's a lot of people working.
Yeah, potentially. And are you speaking specifically on growing the industry or on the workforce part? You mean?
Both.
Yeah. So it probably depends on what we see as the pie chart of what that person's job is as they wake up every day. Is it to get more kids into training or upskilling, or is it to listen? We may get to that point, and we have so much interest from ancillary companies and inland ports and things like that. That might be where the next focus is. So I guess to answer your question, I absolutely see that there can be the bandwidth required to see some major parts of this through. We haven't gotten there maybe quite yet, but we absolutely would when we feel that pressure, when we feel that urgency to have somebody living and breathing inland ports and shipbuilding companies and workforce, then I think we could probably get to a place. Hopefully, we are in a place where that would absolutely merit.
Quick question about red light cameras.
Yeah.
There was a man, I believe he spoke before city council, upset that he loaned his car to someone and then ended up with a ticket from the red light
Yeah.
camera. Did you have any thoughts on that?
I certainly defer to the police department, other than I think he left the part out that someone else was driving the car. I think that might have caused some of the confusion. But when you say you got a ticket somewhere else, that instance has happened, and you'll have to get numbers from Mike several times. There's clear language on the back of the ticket that says if that takes place, this is what you do. So if someone else is driving a vehicle, you chose not to do those things. I'm not here to debate a person's opinion about red light cameras or with someone, with a particular person through the media. I can just give you what I say generally. The idea of having these is that our goal is to have a safer city. And so, but a point of clarification that was left out during the city council meeting was that it was not that someone was given a ticket where the car wasn't moving. It just so happened that person wasn't in the car. And whether that person in particular or anybody in the community agrees or disagrees with that notion, that is wildly different than a presentation that says my car was sitting in my driveway and we received a ticket from a long way away. So as long as everybody's on the same level of facts in the playing field, then certainly everybody's entitled to their own opinion about whether they like that or they don't like that.
Is Inspire making any progress?
We still are going back and forth in conversations with them. I was actually supposed to have a meeting with them last week that we had to move to this week. I would say right now our position remains, which is that, and we have two Inspires, so I'm assuming you're talking about Hard Rock, not Land Development Code. Yeah. So so my position remains the same, which is we're going to be protectors of the taxpayer dollar, and you're going to have to show us. We're open to any conversation with anybody about them being able to give the taxpayer a return on investment for their money, but future taxpayer dollars or future tax revenues are taxpayer money. They haven't been collected yet. So we're going to protect taxpayer dollars and make sure that we can provide the services that we need to. So yes, we continue to be in conversation with them, but my position is the burden is on the requester. The requester can come with a value proposition that's worthwhile. They really have two options. One, it could be something that I agree to, and I've made this clear. Be something that I can feel comfortable co-signing. That goes to all of this ultimately ends with council, right? They would have to approve this, so they can either do that, or certainly the Inspire can. There's no legal requirement that the mayor has to like it or agree with it or not agree with it. They can go directly and get a council sponsor and have the council vote that way. And I've been very clear with them about that. So that's another way they can do it. And I want to be fully transparent on what their options are. The buck does not stop with me, but if they're asking my opinion, then I believe the burden is on the requester to say, here's the abatement we're asking for, and here's what the citizen gets for that abatement. So I guess what I'd say at this moment, that threshold for me personally has not been met yet, but conversations continue, and we're happy to have those as we
You're
move
paying
forward.
on the lease, right?
They are.
Yeah. And the lease has an escalator in it,
It does.
driven by the calendar, right?
It does. Yep. So, nope, there's been no lease changes, concessions, amendments to, obviously, anything like that of what has already been voted on by council. And as I pointed out, when it was voted on by council, we were very, very clear about the idea that this was a difference in what the requested abatement was many years ago. So again, if you're going to come back and change that math, then it is your duty as the requester to come back and tell us what you'd like to, what the citizen is going to get for those taxpayer dollars. So again, ball's in their court, and happy to entertain any conversations and scenarios they want to play.
Mayor, circling back around to the federal housing bill you mentioned
Yeah.
at the start. Does the city have any data on how many institutional investors own housing in the city that would be affected by this?
We don't. That'll be a fascinating number to know. And we'll have Betsy dig in on that. But I'm not, right off the cuff, to be honest with you, I didn't even know that the number was, when we said institutional, was it going to be 250, 1,000? So I wasn't following it through all of the negotiation, congressional negotiation to even know till yesterday that the number was 350. But I imagine we have the mechanisms to be able to, or at least at the county office would be able to give us those numbers. And so, we'll look into that, and that would be a good number to know, of course.
And then some kind of late-breaking developments on that is President Trump was supposed to have a signing ceremony today to sign the bill, and now he's refusing to sign it until Congress passes the SAVE Act. Do you have any reaction?
This is what I get for talking about federal policy. No, I don't have any comment on that, and certainly but I would maintain, as the U.S. Conference of Mayors has, is that you have a bill with bipartisan support, and you have a problem that not one mayor, county commissioner, city council member in this country would argue is solved, which is housing. So I would certainly encourage. I don't know the dealings within Washington, D.C., nor comment on that, other than to say I personally hope that this bipartisan piece of legislation gets put through, because this could lead to real solutions and real impact on affordability here in the city. So we had hoped it was going to be today, in terms of signing. So we'll see what happens, but this would be big for us. It would be big for the city of Pensacola.
Mayor, on the inland port, how far along are you on this? Has this become a big priority? The administration or your enterprise?
Yeah, there's certainly well behind the Birdon conversation, but it's very real. I mean, we're having conversations with Birdon about it, with other potential tenants. I've had personally in Washington, D.C., 2 conversations about it with the U.S. Department of Commerce, the military as well, and so. Again, if we want to help reshore these shipbuilding jobs, and we're going to take up that type of real estate to do it, and we want to do it efficiently, then we're going to need additional space for people to bring those parts that Birdon needs, and to bring those other components that Birdon needs. So proximity to Birdon's major effort is going to matter. I mean, that could delay a project by days or weeks if it's not on site. So the nice part is on Inland Port, I feel generally that we're all rowing in the same direction. That every conversation we have, people see the need. So it isn't just some pie in the sky idea from the city of Pensacola. I think at every level that I just mentioned, everybody agrees that there's the demand, there will be the demand, and there's the need for it. So that's a great place to start. Now it's just a matter of which property, how do we fund the purchase of the property, all of that. So, but we have had substantive conversations with the U.S. Department of Commerce about help with property acquisition, potential funding to help build buildings on site that then could be leased out. So we are moving in it as aggressively as we can. But the most important task has been accomplished, which is there is consensus agreement amongst the relevant parties that there's a need for an inland port. So yes, we are pushing it through. Birdon is number 1 on our list, but we are pushing it through as aggressively as we can.
County, the EDC.
Sure. Yeah, they're aware of it now. whether that includes the county property up there or something, I couldn't speak to, but I would consider them a party that certainly is aware of this, involved in this, and we've had open conversations at least previously with. So we have taken no headwinds on the idea of an inland port that I'm aware of from any relevant agency.
Mayor, was the city looking at the CRA expansion as a potential source of funding to help build that?
No, I wouldn't correlate those two things. Again, the CRA expansions, that's been a conversation happening now for many, many months. I could probably safely say well over a year, just because it was that time to have that discussion. The more I've thought of it, and this isn't us moving it forward. If you ask me of a prioritization of what we should deal with first within CRAs, probably the west side, I would think first. First of all, I believe that there was a perception, at least with one county commissioner, that all of the funding around Baptist Hospital was that shouldn't contribute because all of the funding was going to be happening there. Well, then we might as well make that a reality, I guess, since that wasn't a factual reality during the conversation. But in truth, you have a major development of 38 acres happening, around that area, and so I mean, if you ask me, I think there's more timely priority if you were going to split hairs and say, well, how would you deal with this? But again, I haven't had a direct conversation with Councilman Wiggins, the CRA board chair, yet. I would need to know the pros and cons if it's even worth doing one and then maybe another one later, that type of thing. We haven't even really fully evaluated that. That's just my opinion, that if something was going to move first, I think the west side would make sense to move first, given the fact that that would have some real potential to help see and envision what the community wants to see happen at Baptist. It would give us more tools in the tool belt to do that there. So again, more to come on that, but nothing is moving. We're not putting anything on an agenda. We got enough irons in the fire right now.